How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down Podcast, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Today, we are back rounding off our regular season coverage for the 2020 season. Crazy that it has come to an end, and we surely hope that it will extend if the Bears can get a win or a Rams loss this weekend on January 3rd. We're here with our Week 17 pregame show. 8-7 Bears, 12-3 Packers. We knew we couldn't send it off without doing something very special for you guys. Happy New Year, though. You're seeing this on the 2nd. We're recording it on New Year's Day, though, so hope you all had a great and safe New Year's. I am your host, Chris Malpe. Today, to the right of me and to the bottom right, I am joined by my co-hosts, Parth and Jaylen McClinton. Guys, how's it going? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys. I'm just chilling. It's 11 a.m., New Year's Day. It's a little early, but, just talk some Bears football.
Oh, yeah, Happy New Year's to you too, Chris, Parth, and Mr. Grossi for joining us. But my New Year's was terrible. I didn't even get to experience it because, people were shooting and they shot out my power line, so I didn't have power for like 5 hours.
Way to absolutely just ruin the tone. But you also spoiled the special guest. We've got a very special person on today.
Right
and
there,
about New Year. We gained 3,000 subscribers in 2020. This man, like nobody else, knows how to gain subscribers on YouTube and is an absolute legend at doing so. He's got 142,000 subscribers. He is making his second appearance on the show. Packers super fan, former comedian, and I believe former teacher. Tom Grossi, welcome back. How's it going, my friend?
What's going on, everybody? How's it going?
So you are currently powerless.
We got power. We just don't have internet, cable, or phone. That's been out since Monday at 3 a.m., which has just been real super.
That's going to be quite the situation to figure out if you're going to be live streaming the game, I'm sure.
Yeah. Thankfully, they're supposed to come tomorrow and fix it. Shout out to Verizon for making me wait a week. They're supposed to come tomorrow, but I literally brought my entire studio over to my dad's house for the one interview I had to do this week and had to cancel like 6 other interviews. So great time. Great start to the new year.
Well, glad we got you on for a new year. So just so you guys know who are listening, because I'm sure there's a ton of new listeners. That's what happened last time we brought Tom on. Basically how we do these pregame shows, we go through our weekly segments and then we'll make our picks at the end. So you'll hear Tom's pick in Bears versus Packers. So let's hop right into this. We're going to start with Meet the Opponents, talking obviously about the 12-3 Packers who are looking to clinch the 1 seed in this game. Before we get into anything, let's take a look at the injury report as of Friday morning. We don't have the official designations just yet, but as of right now, ESPN says Adarius Smith questionable, as well as Alan Lazard, Jay Sternberger, and Mercedes Lewis. I'm sure all of those gentlemen will play, but obviously the big one that Tom made a video on last night, David Bakhtiari tore an ACL in practice. He will miss tomorrow. Very big for Khalil Mack. And then for the Bears, Allen Robinson, Demetrius Harris, Charles Leno, Cole Kmet, and Khalil Mack, all questionable. I'm sure they will be good to go. The spread on this game is 6 points in favor of Green Bay. ESPN's matchup predictor gives them a 65.9% chance to win this one. The Bears at a 33.9% chance. Over-under at 50.5. Okay, let's hop into Green Bay's offense. First and foremost, they have scored on average 31.6 points per game, putting up 406.5 yards per game, 270.6 for the soon-to-be MVP. Yes, I did say that. Aaron Rodgers having an absolutely great year, 135.9 rushing yards per game for Green Bay. Taking a look at some of their statistical leaders. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, having an incredible year, 4,059 passing yards, 44 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Aaron Jones on the ground, 190 carries, 1,062 yards, 8 scores. And then Devontae Adams, what more is there to say? 17 touchdowns on 1,328 receiving yards for him on the season. Tom, we know how great this Packers offense is. We know how great they looked last week. And what was an absolute snowball. Alan Lazard looking good. Same with MVS. Robert Tonyan probably got snubbed from the Pro Bowl. But give us a little bit of an update. How has the Green Bay offense been so successful so far this year, and what should Chicago expect in Week 17?
Yeah, I think, in terms of the offense, the thing that I mentioned, because honestly, like the roster itself really on offense is kind of unchanged, right? So you have
Yeah.
like AJ Dillon who had his breakout game and like introduced himself to the world last week. Before that, I think he had less than like 10 carries on the entire season. Like he really wasn't doing a whole lot. Josiah DeGuara, who we drafted the tight end in the third round, he got hurt. He had a season-ending injury a few games in, so we really haven't seen anything there. And I think what it really comes down to is just this is the second full year of Matt LaFleur's offense, in which last year you saw a ton of McCarthyism, and I'm not talking about going after communists. McCarthyism like within that offense, and basically taking a look at that's what they would fall back on when their game plan didn't go well. It was still an Aaron Rodgers like run offense. It was very reliant on like the old way, and this is just like what year two looks like. And I think that is a huge credit to Matt LaFleur. I think it's Rodgers getting more comfortable within this offense, within this scheme, because he flat out said last year, like, this crap was complicated. And he's like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to memorize this. Because, again, he spent his entire career with McCarthy, right? And then at some point, McCarthy was just like, all right, I'm going to dip. You do what you got to do. You drive the car. So, yeah, I think a lot of it just comes down to, like, this is just starting to see, like, the comfortability within that offense. And maybe there's a little chip on Aaron's shoulder for no reason, maybe for something that happened in April.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you bring up A.J. Dillon because what a game he had last week. I think the one thing that Green Bay needed that they didn't have was a power back, and we really saw that in him last week. And Parth, I'm going to pass it along to you. I mean, obviously we know what this Green Bay offense is able to do. Aaron Rodgers, I think in everyone recording here's opinion, is going to be the MVP this year. So what do you think about Green Bay's offense and what they've been able to do this year?
Yeah, like you said, they have the MVP on offense, and when you usually have the MVP on offense, your offense usually is one of the best in the league. Aaron Rodgers is playing out of his mind right now. So is Davante Adams. I think I don't think he gets enough credit, but I mean he's an outstanding route runner. He's usually open on most plays. Aaron Rodgers just has to throw it to him. That's how good of a player Davante Adams is. And then when you have running back like Aaron Jones who can catch out of the backfield, run out of the backfield, and you can mix it up with Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon who had his breakout game. I mean, that offense is stacked with just star players like that. And that offensive line, I mean, yes, they did lose David Bakhtiari, which sucks. I mean, that was probably their best tackle in the NFL. But,
easily an All-Pro as well.
Easily an All-Pro, but they still got really good players on that offensive line. I really like, I think, is it Billy Turner? I think he's playing really well for the last two seasons. And then MVS, Alan Lazard, two guys who are, getting better. I thought the Green Bay Packers should have drafted a wide receiver, but they still could have. I think there were a lot of studs that they could have drafted, but, those two are playing well. So is Robert Tonyan. I think he has 9 touchdowns, one more than Jimmy Graham on the season. Both those tight ends having a great year, but, Tonyan's a red zone threat we got to watch out for. So this offense has all the tools to be successful. And like Grossi said, they're just getting more comfortable as time goes on.
Yeah, and this offense is going to be something to handle for Chuck Pagano and co. We talked about it all week. They're going to have to disguise blitzes. They're going to have to get crap if they want to do something to stop Aaron Rodgers. So, Jaylen, I'm going to come around to you for the defense, but let's head on to Green Bay's defense. It's a little bit different tale of the tape, obviously. As we know, they've struggled a little bit more on the season. They have allowed 23.5 points per game, allowing 349.2 yards per game on average, 236.1 through the air, 113.1 on the ground. Parth and Jaylen, we obviously remember last time we played the Packers, and last week, obviously, huge game for David Montgomery, had a 59-yard run on the first play from scrimmage. So, Tom, I'm going to come back around to you. Green Bay's defense, pretty solid, but, they have a couple big games on the ground. They did a good job at holding Derrick Henry last week, but this Bears' offensive line is looking better. And I want to know, what have your thoughts on Mitchell Trubisky been so far since he's come back?
Yeah, I think in terms of the Packers defense, right, like that's always been kind of the weak spot. I mean, you could argue since like 2014 and then all the way back until like 2010. Like we get like sporadically like good defenses. Last year we had a really nice pass rush with the Smith brothers, able to really rack up sacks. And in the beginning of this year, especially with Preston Smith has gotten much better as the season has gone along. Had a great game last week against the Titans, but they're like still finding it. I mean, if you ask any Packer fan 3 weeks ago, like a lot of them were on the fire Mike Pettin train. I don't think they've fully gotten off of that train either. I'm pretty sure people are just like waiting now. They're like, all right, I have my ticket in hand in case this goes poorly again. So, in terms of like the run, I think everyone thought that we were going to get demolished, including myself, by Derrick Henry. But we really, really sold out to kind of stop the run. And obviously the weather also played a factor. But in terms of the Bears, David Montgomery is kind of like the guy that I'm circling and looking at because obviously you're going to need to contain him. And with Trubisky, again, I'm not terribly surprised. He had his best season a few years ago when he had a running game. Last year, you guys had no running game established whatsoever. And then we can talk about the offensive line and play calling and all that great stuff. But that's when Trubisky does best. Like when he is not forced to just be the guy, also design some runs for him and he could be better. But when he's not just the guy, like he does better. So it doesn't really shock me that he's like kind of having this resurgence or this renaissance over these past few weeks because it's been supported with David Montgomery in a good running game. He has big targets to throw to, like a Jimmy Graham, like a Cole Kmet. He has all these guys to throw to, who are these big targets. And I think what it comes down to Trubisky is he's never been an elite quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but I also don't think he needs to be. Right? You have the defense to do well, and I think it's just a matter of you need to design the play calling to Trubisky's strengths, and I think that's what you've seen these past few weeks, and, it's been beneficial.
Yeah. I think we've realized on the show ever since Bill Lazor became the play caller in, I believe, week 10, and got more comfortable, things have gotten better for Trubisky. A lot of RPOs, a lot of bootlegs, getting him outside the pocket is what you have to do, and it's what you're going to have to do on Sunday. And you have to design him some runs, especially against the Packers. We talked about it earlier this week. They've struggled against quarterbacks that run. We saw it a little bit with Teddy Bridgewater. We definitely saw it last week with Ryan Tannehill. So Parth and Jaylen, taking a look at this defense, there's not many weak spots. I'm not sure if Damone Harrison's going to be able to play this weekend. Tom, or do we know about that? Is he going to be – I'm not sure. Would we be good
Which
to go
one?
again? Damone Harrison. Snacks.
I'm sorry. I was like, wait, yeah, I totally forgot we got snacks for a hot second. Yes, there is potential that that he is good to go. LaFleur said that is a possibility, but I think they have to go through all the COVID protocols. He was practicing yesterday, so I would imagine he could be good to go. I think also at the same time, like they are going to introduce him pretty darn slowly. Yeah. He's a rotational player at best at this point, which is good. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But if you see him for more than like 20 snaps a game, I'd be like, wow, he's in there a lot.
Yeah, and we figured earlier this week that he would be on a snap count. But that's a big piece for run stopping on defense. But, guys, we know that this defense has a lot of good pieces. Obviously, the Smith brothers with Zadarius and Preston Smith. Kenny Clark having another great season. I like their other linebackers as well. Kamal Martin and Christian Kirksey in Iowa grad. You love to see that. And then, obviously,
Chris Barnes, baby.
Huh?
Undrafted guy, Chris Barnes. Kirksey had his interception last week, but Kirksey's kind of not been that great this year. Chris Barnes, the undrafted guy, honestly, for his position, he's been great for us. The guy, he kind of took the Packers by storm the first couple of weeks because he was actually making tackles, and we were like, "What is this?" So yeah, a lot of Packers fans are really hyped about Chris Barnes.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of Bears fans about Sam Mustipher, too, who will have a big assignment this game, probably on Kenny Clark, undrafted out of Notre Dame, the center, who's been playing great. Probably he'll start moving forward. But, Jaylen, I said I was going to come back around to you. It's finally time for you to speak. What do you think about this Packers defense? Do you think the Bears will be able to take advantage of a little bit weak run-stopping defense?
So before I get into the defense, it's crazy to me how Grossi, who's a Packers fan, notices that when Mitchell was used to his ability, he's a good quarterback. The only person who doesn't realize that is our head coach and Matt Nagy.
I thought you were about to say me and just put me on the spot.
No, you know that we've talked about this multiple times. When you get him out the pocket and use him as a runner and use his legs to his best ability, out the pocket, he's a good quarterback. And not when he's just standing in the pocket being a pocket passer. I guess a lot of people know that other than Matt Nagy, who's and this is from I don't even want to fire Matt Nagy. I just think that's crazy how he doesn't.
Man, you're on quite the sidetrack right now, my man.
I know. I'm going to get back into the defense. So when we're talking about defense, obviously, like you said, they have a lot of names: Jair Alexander, Darnell Savage, who's been very good this year. I think he had 4 interceptions on the season or something like that. He was one of my favorite safety prospects back in 2018 when we do lose Adrian. So obviously, we do have Adrian Amos, Kevin King, who can make some plays here and there. Obviously, the Smith brothers who are very good, Zadarius and Preston. And Kenny Clark, and now you have Snacks Harrison, in that interior. So the only real problem, like I said, on that defense to me is the linebackers. You know, you do have Christian Kersey, but and Martin, but a lot of those guys are not, or you know, the other guys are not proven in the NFL. So if we, you know, attack them, I know they did a very good job on stopping Derrick Henry, who's the best running back in the NFL right now. But you know, last time we played them, David Montgomery had a very good game. You know, one of our first plays of the game, he had a 57-yard run, and we didn't give the ball to him for the rest of the game. So I feel like we can continue to do that on Sunday. I think we can have a very good chance on scoring on this defense. You know, actually, it's kind of crazy how, you know, around this season, I'm not nervous about, you know, the offense scoring points. I'm worried about our defense stopping, the Packers. But like I said, the Packers have, you know, a lot of familiar names. They can make plays. They caused 2 turnovers on Mitchell last time we played. So, you know, very, very sneaky, underrated defense. But I definitely feel like we can be able to score some points on them.
And I think the NFC North running backs don't get enough credit. I mean, you take a look at David Montgomery now at 1,005 rushing yards, Aaron Jones at 1,062, one above him at 4th in the league. And even, I mean, obviously there's Dalvin and then DeAndre Swift. I think the NFC North running backs are some of the best in the league. And those two are surely going to be duking it out because the Bears' run defense has not been great this year whatsoever. So let's see if the Bears can get a ground game going. Next, we're going to move into 3 key matchups. We're going to keep it 2. I'm going to do one, and I'm going to ask Tom to do one. But you know what? For mine, I was just talking about the running game. I'm going to go with the Bears' rushing attack versus the Packers' front 7. I think that's what's most important, and I think that's what the Bears have to do if they want to win this game. We talked about when these two teams faced off in Week 12 about the game being won in the trenches. It surely wasn't won in the trenches, but the Bears are going to have to try and come back around for that if they want to win this one. You know, you look at David Montgomery's stats. He has been great in the last couple of games, and he was good against Green Bay when he faced them a couple of weeks ago. He had 11 rushes for 103 yards, 9.4 yards per carry, and you can't give him the ball 11 times against Green Bay. That's not going to happen. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen Montgomery get 55 carries, and that's something you're going to need to do again, get him around that average of 27 or 28 if we want to win this one. He's also had 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. If you take a look at where the Bears rank offensively since Mr. Trubisky has come back, they rank 4th in offensive efficiency with a rating of 82.9 and 6th in red zone percentage. 74% of the time they're scoring when they get into the red zone. If Mitchell Trubisky is playing, obviously he's playing here again, and you have to keep this team two-dimensional. We saw them become one-dimensional against Green Bay because obviously David Montgomery had that great run, and then he had 10 rushes for about 50 yards, which was pretty good, but you still have to be a little bit better than that. So I think you have to keep this offense two-dimensional. You have to keep Green Bay honest when you're throwing the ball, but most importantly, you have to get David Montgomery the ball 25-plus times in this game. So my factor in this one's going to be the Bears' rushing attack versus the Packers' defense easily. Tom, if you can do so, give us a Packers positional matchup that you think they have to take advantage of if they want to win this one and clinch the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I think what it's going to come down to is I alluded to Preston Smith, who, again, has had his struggles. I mean, there was talks that were going on about, like, you know, did they potentially cut him, you know, kind of save a bunch of money because we have a lot of impending free agents, what have you. But one thing that I do want to, and it kind of adds to your point, is what he did really, really well last week was basically hold the edge against Derrick Henry. And while I would think, you know, the obvious choice would be like to do the same exact thing about Dave Montgomery, even though Montgomery is really good at just running it down your throat. Honestly, I think it's more for Trubisky. You alluded to this before, but Tannehill, I think had like a 45 rushing yard touchdown last week, and there was no one there. And Trubisky, because he's done it against the Packers before, has done exactly that. I think, you know, the combination of the Smith brothers, Rashawn Gary's had a really nice year as well. I think that if we're able to contain Trubisky and able to kind of get pressure on your offensive line, which has been better. I mean, the bar was very, very low. But you know, it's a couple steps above. You know, I think that if we're able to constantly get pressure and make Trubisky uncomfortable, I think that we have a good shot at this game. My biggest concern, obviously, is now because of last night, and that's David Bakhtiari being out. But
the Mac attack.
The
Mac attack is coming.
Yeah. So you alluded to Billy Turner. One guy who has been absolutely incredible is Elton Jenkins, our second rounder from last year. He has played every single position on the offensive line this year. He is arguably, in just his second year, one of, if not the most versatile offensive lineman in the NFL, because he's played every single position. and he's excelled in every single position. So I'm very curious. When David Bakhtiari missed some time, he missed 3 games earlier this season. We threw Billy Turner over there at left tackle and Ricky Wagner over at right tackle. I'm curious to see if we're going to do something similar. But if that offensive line can be good against you guys and like stop your pass rush, then I'm going to feel a lot more confident heading into the playoff.
And Khalil Mack is a beast, but being completely coherent and honest, it would be so him to just get owned up by someone who I've never heard of. But yeah, there's not many linemen that can do it all in the league. Joe Tooney being one of them. The Bears have a couple players that can play guard and tackle, a couple that can play guard and center. But yeah, it's interesting that you brought up Trubisky's legs because Tannehill 3 rushes for 55 yards. And a score last week with that long of 45. He had 18.3 yards per carry. So it would be nice to see if the Bears can incorporate some runs for Trubisky. We're going to skip our Fan Mail Friday segment just because we don't have time for that. We're going to head into the predictions. It's what you all are waiting for. So, Parth, I'm going to start with you. This might be the last time we're doing this.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad. It's been a fun year. I hope we can do it again in the playoffs. But who is your Week 17 pick? Who's going to win this game and why? I'm very intrigued to hear what you have to say.
It's really hard to pick the Bears going into this one. I'm not going to. As much as I want the Bears to win this game.
Only one of us is going to pick the Bears, and it's not.
I'm glad that Venmo went through before the show, so I appreciate it. Okay, good. This is my confirmation. We're good now.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have the Packers winning this one, 34-24, I'm going to say. I think that offense is too much to deal with. This Bears defense hasn't been the best lately. Chuck Pagano, again, not the most, I don't trust him as much just yet. His defense,
especially scheming zone coverages against the Packers. I will say, if Buster Screen stays on concussion protocol, it might actually benefit the Bears to have Duke Shelley playing.
Yeah, I would love to see Duke Shelley playing, but I would love to see Jaylen Johnson back in there too. But I don't think that will happen. But that's the reason. The Bears are missing some key starters on defense. It's gonna be hard to win against Rodgers, especially in a game where he has to win. He wants the first seed. It's winner go home for the Bears. Trubisky's gonna be hungry. I know that. Montgomery's gonna come out. This offense is gonna come out. But again, it's just not enough. It might not be enough to just beat the Packers.
Yeah, and if Kendall Vildor's in, and I like what I've seen from Kendall Vildor, I think at times he slipped up. But Rodgers is absolutely going to pick him apart. I would rather have Duke Shelley playing than Buster Screen. And I think that's why Bakhtiari being out is so big for me, because I think it allows the Bears a better chance at forcing pressure on Aaron Rodgers. Akeem Hicks will play. He had an illness, but he's healthy. We've seen Bilal Nichols play so much better since the last time the Bears faced off with the Packers. But Tom just hopped out, unfortunately. But I'm going to take my pick for this one as he headed out. I'm going to pick the Bears to lose in this one slightly. I'm going to go 34-27 Green Bay. It's a tough choice to make. But if it means anything, I do think the Bears are still going to get into the playoffs. I'm confident that the Rams will win. Parth, I'm going to ask it back to you. You did pick the Bears to lose, but what do you think happens in that LA Rams-Cardinals game?
Hopefully, the Rams win. I think they do have a solid chance. I'm going to pick the Rams to win. I feel like the Bears. That's like the way the Bears get into the playoffs. I really want to keep making videos on the Bears just about the season in the playoffs.
Come back in suits in the playoffs.
Exactly. So Rams better pull this one out.
Tom. Jaylen, we're working on getting Tom back in here. Technical difficulties to you guys who are still tuning in if you didn't click off already. But we're trying to get Tom back in here so he can make his pick before we close this one off. But Jaylen, what is your pick in this one? Who wins in Week 17 and why?
All right, we talked about this all week on how you guys, are going to give me some flack for picking the Bears. But
if you're right, I would not be mad.
Yeah, me too.
I'm gonna pick the Bears because I feel like we made it this far, for no reason. If we lose this game, and the Cardinals win, then we're out the playoffs. This little comeback and this resurgence of Mitch and David was literally for no reason. So I feel like this is a whole new Bears team. When we were on that 6-game win streak, it looked like really nobody cared. Obviously they won't say. They won't say that they lost hope, but if you can look at the official expressions, it looked like they were really upset about what was going on. This is a new Bears team. Allen Robinson is looking pretty good again. Mitchell's looking good. We have David finally going. Jimmy Graham's we playing good. He had 2 touchdowns last week. We're finally getting involved into to the offense more. So I feel like this is the game where we shocked the world, we shocked Bears fans, and show that we deserve to be in the playoffs. We didn't do all this for no reason. So hopefully I think the Rams winning have a higher chance of the Rams winning than
has a better chance of happening.
Yeah, than the Bears beating the Packers. But like I said, I'm not dependent on the Rams winning. We control our own destiny. We finally do. It took us 16 weeks to do that. So I'm gonna go with the Bears here in a close game. I'm gonna say 30-27. Cairo Santos wins on a close field goal.
All right. Well, the stream is going absolutely. This recording is going wild because now we have lost Parth. But we don't have Tom in here. Unfortunately, I wanted him to make his pick. But I'm going to ask him for his pick online, and we will put it up on the screen. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to our Week 17 pregame show. Hopefully, it's not the end of our 2020 coverage. We don't want it to end, but you guys have been incredible all year, so do us a favor. Oh, Tom is back.
There we go. Thank God.
Devil, we were just about to close it off, but we're not going to. So,
I got to. I was like, I got to make it back for predictions.
Yes, absolutely. The stage is yours. Who's going to win this one in Week 17 and why?
So, obviously, losing David Bakhtiari is a big blow, and especially against guys like Khalil Mack and the rushing attack on the defensive side of the ball, pass rush attack of the Bears. But I think in terms of the Packers' offense, they are a two-headed monster. Obviously, A.J. Dillon had his breakout game last week, which I don't know if we're going to use him a ton. I imagine so, because I imagine it's going to be pretty cold at Soldier Field. But I think between him, Aaron Jones, I think Jamal Williams should be back. So we even have 3 options, and Jamal Williams also has proven himself as a good route runner and pass catcher as well. So I think the Packers are going to take this. I mean, I think what it's going to come down to is, can you stop Devontae Adams, who is honestly unstoppable, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, you had him contained. He lost his streak of touchdowns in consecutive games, but then he came back and scored 3. So I think if you guys are able to kind of scheme for him, because you're not going to cover him. If you can scheme for him, and I mean, even the Vikings they put 3 guys on him, and he still got a bunch of touchdowns. So I think what it's going to come down to is containing him, somehow also containing the running game. But I think even though the Bears defense is fantastic, I think that the Packers are going to be able to take this. I would imagine it's going to be something like 31-20, 31-17 Pack.
All right. Well, a little bit closer than last game, but luckily we got you back in here for your prediction. There was no better way for us to end off our year of coverage. Hopefully it doesn't end, but this was also a great way to kick off 2021. So,
hopefully we're going.
Tom, one more thing. What do you think happens in the Rams-Cardinals game? Because that's very big for the Bears, and we see a bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you guys get in if the Cardinals lose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I've been saying all week is that Rams defense is so good, and I think that Goff hasn't been playing great recently. I still think they could do it personally, but what are you?
Well, because here's the thing, because I thought it was going to be the battle of the backups, because Goff isn't going to play because he had to get surgery on his thumb. So yeah. I think what it's honestly going to come down to is Kyler Murray playing. If it's a backup QB in there, and it's not Huntley, because I don't think they said they would use Huntley. I honestly forgot what the guy's name was.
I'm pretty sure Kyler's going to play because he was a full participant at practice the last 2 days. So.
He said in his interview he's going to be playing since it's an important game for the team.
Okay. So then I kind of give the nod to the Cardinals. But you did mention that defense of the Rams, who, when they want to, can be really, really good. So, I think that it's definitely going to be a close game. If Kyler wasn't playing, I give it to the Rams easy. But the Cardinals might be able to squeak it out.
We shall see. The Bears could get absolutely screwed on Sunday, but they might be looking for some help. Matt Nagy said they're not going to be playing any other games on the scoreboard at Soldier Field like they normally would. But Tom Grossi, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it.
I'm going to leave Tom's social media links down in the description. If you guys want more content from us, head over to our website, doing a ton of big things in 2021, posting our Week 17 coverage, beardown.com. Find us on social media at beardown on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find the links to all of our social media pages. Our personal pages down in the description, Instagram and Twitter. Jaylen McClinton, a lot of fun to kick off the new year, but we've got one more win to get, or we have to rely on another team if we want the season to extend. Any last words before we close this one off?
Hopefully we're doing this type of, pregame show next week. talking about.
Imagine if we won and played the Packers twice in a row.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. Ultimately, to be honest.
No, thank you. I will take either the Saints or the Seahawks. Give me
you wouldn't want to kick out the Packers out the playoffs after what they did to us the last.
I mean, it would be funny to beat them twice. Actually happening.
Like, I would love to kick the Packers out the playoffs, but.
Well, we're around in 30 minutes. If you guys made it this far in the video, if you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, do us a favor and follow our show. Give us a 5-star rating if you want. A lot of big things planned for 2021. 2020 was crazy. We're kicking it off how we need to. It's been a pleasure to be your host, guys. My name is Chris Malpe. Bears fans and Packers fans alike, do us a favor. Continue to stay safe. And as always, to the Bears fans listening, bear down. Wow. Bear down. It's early in the morning on New Year's Day. But that'll pretty much do it for us, guys. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.